Vermont Congressman Peter Welch is joining a bipartisan effort to try and break the gridlock in Congress.
That's right. It's called the Problem Solvers. Roger Garrity talked to Welch about the group and what issues it hopes to tackle.
Congress has pretty much run out of moderates over the years. They've either gotten frustrated and given up and gone home, or they've been targeted by special interests and been voted out of office. Is this an effort to bring back moderation and compromise in Congress?
You know, what it really is about is trying to solve problems and get Congress back to problem solving as opposed to just talking point and ideological arguing. You know, the American people are frustrated with Congress, and rightly so. What's also interesting is that many members of Congress want the institution to be much more practical and problem-solving oriented. You know, I come at this from my tradition of service in the Vermont Senate, where Republicans and Democrats served on committees where the opposite party would always have committee chairmanships, and many women obviously in chair positions as well. And the members would be in the same room, hearing the same evidence at the same time. And over the course of this interaction, they would be able to find common ground and make practical decisions that involve compromise, not a sellout of principle, but finding that common ground. We don't do that in Congress.
You got a couple of dozen congressmen signed on. Is that enough people to make a difference?
It's a beginning. What's significant is that you've got half Republicans and half Democrats. And, you know, we have really different points of view about fiscal issues, about foreign policy. But what all of us share is a recognition that our job is to actually make progress, solving problems, and move the country in the right direction. And that's, I think, what Americans want. You know, I heard from Vermonters all the time, Peter, why don't you all get together and get something done? And I've talked to many of my conservative colleagues, Republicans, and that's what they heard from their people as well. So No Labels is about a number of us coming together and saying, look, we've got to make this institution work. We've got to be leaders in doing that, and that's why we're here.
And do you think there are a good number of congresspeople who feel like they've sort of been silenced by the pressure from special interest groups to not try to make a compromise?
I do think that. And I think that there's just kind of a talking point culture that dominates too much in Congress, and I think it's kind of a fact-free zone. And part of the problem is the way we organize ourselves. You know, Angus King, the from Maine, is suggesting that we be here 5 days a week for 3 weeks in a row and then home a week. And the idea is to simply have us in the same room on our committees working in a more sustained basis to get a rhythm going that's essential to making progress. That's like an institutional change that we could make that probably would be very helpful. But then others are saying, hey, look, we have just got to spend more time together and define areas of common agreement, like energy efficiency, for instance. The big debate here about climate change, I believe in it and think we've got to do a lot. But let's not hold up on doing things that we can do on, like, say, energy efficiency that would create jobs and save people money.
So is the idea to start with maybe some smaller bills, some bills where there already is a little bit of common ground, and then work up to bigger issues?
Well, I think that's the right way to go. I think once we see that we actually can find common ground and we can break this sort of my way or the highway approach that tends to be too dominant in Washington, that's going to be good for the process. And if you have a process that's working, successful, will feed on itself.
It seems like this comes with some risk. Are the people involved in this willing to sort of put up that political capital to go out there and cross the aisle when they could be targeted by their party or by a special interest group in the long run?
Well, the folks here are definitely willing to do that. You know, most of us in Congress are like everybody. We'd feel much better at the end of the day if we were able to point to some progress that we made towards, you know, improving a situation. And a lot of us are frustrated that there's so many obstacles to being successful that we want to plunge ahead and try to change that.
All right, Congressman Welch, thank you.
And again, Welch says once the group starts to grow, they hope to take on bigger, more divisive issues.
Very interesting. Well, tomorrow